when he first comes out, and I can't do it unless I'm standing up, but it's like, thank you. It's very exciting. Actually, even more exciting. You know about this? This is true.
Guys, thank you so much. You made it. Episode 1 of the Pop-Up Show with Paul and Friends. Thank you for tuning in, for watching, for subscribing. I'm so grateful for all the support of the show before we even really started. But we're starting now. And I want to tell you, the reason I called this the Pop-Up Show with Paul and Friends is because I like having my friends around. And for this episode, we got my one friend, stand-up comedian Greg Baldwin's hanging out. Greg, thank you for hanging out with us, man.
It's awesome.
It's great to have you.
It's fantastic.
This chair is dedicated for friends. Like, I like keeping friends close, chime in, hang out. And also you're here because your buddy came by for episode 1. I'm so excited to have him on the show. A big part of the show for me is talking with comedians, talking with people I look up to, I admire. And there's nobody bigger in my mind than the guest we have for episode 1, especially on this President's Day. By far the best president impressionist of all time, but so much more than an impressionist. I grew up watching him on SNL like all of us. I told myself I wouldn't do big intros on this show. So we're going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 1 with the one and only Darrell Hammond. Well, thanks for making the trip to come hang with us. How you doing?
Fair to partly cloudy. I could use a little more caffeine.
What's your caffeine intake? Like, what do you do? You coffee and Red Bull? You mix it up?
I do Red Bull before shows because it's where the funny comes from, actually. Because otherwise the routine is dull. And I like a lot of my material, and I pop a Red Bull, and then I do. The other thing is, you know, so many times in my life I had absolutely no energy, or I was sick, or had flown across the country, and there was just absolutely no way to do a second show Friday in Phoenix after having flown in from New York, but consult with the bull.
Yeah. It is funny how that you have to, in this profession of stand-up and comedy, you have to always bring it, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how you're feeling, your emotions, you're sick. Has there been something that stands out to you, like a stand-up show where you had the flu? You know, Michael Jordan had the flu in the finals. Ever happened to you?
A million times. So many times. SNL, if you got the flu, you know, I had the flu a couple times. Once I had a tooth pulled. It's the only thing that got me through that was that I played high school football. And I know you have more in you when you think you don't. And you put yourself in a situation where the president's watching and the New York Times, and you don't want to suck.
Yeah.
You really don't want to suck if you can help it. You just suck it up.
You have to bring it. It's like, you know, it's your shot in a way, right?
It's like that game Jordan played when he had the flu in the playoff.
Yeah, like Jordan, yeah.
Well, I mean, they said he had the flu. I'm pretty sure they didn't make it up.
I think he did, yeah. He powered through, you're
He
right.
gutted it up.
Yeah.
He just showed guts and courage.
Well, there is like an adrenal effect to performing, right? Would you say you've, like, does that go away after decades of performing in front of people where you don't have that physical effect?
It depends on the setting, right?
Yeah. Well, what makes you nervous now? Like performing? Anything?
I think there would be no time in my life that, you know, an appearance on SNL didn't make me a little bit nervous.
Is it because of the history you had doing it when you did it, or is it just the nature of live?
It's because of how much it means if you suck.
Yeah.
What that's gonna be like for you.
Yeah.
You know.
You made 2 appearances recently, like the last year or 2 on SNL. Was it exciting to go back?
Yeah, that was, I think, last year. I did Trump with Alec and Chris Matthews, I believe. Hell yeah.
What's it like going back?
Well, now that I don't have the pressure on me and the 90-hour work week or whatever, might be 90. Now that I don't have that pressure, I love it. I like being there.
It's like going home, like having.
I wouldn't call it a home, but in the professional world, I guess it's as close to that as you can get.
Sure. I started your book, and I read the part you were talking about how when you first did some impressions, you were surprised when you got season 2, right? Like you didn't expect to keep going. Did that have to do with kind of the nervousness of, like you just said?
I didn't know how to do that show, and it was baffling to me, and I wasn't getting on the air. I didn't know how to write sketches. I only knew how to write for one person, myself. You know, writing for 6 other people, I didn't know how to do that. So, you know, Dana Carvey hosted, and he taught me how to do it. He took me under his wing, spent a lot of time with me, made sure we got, you know, one of my best ones on the air. And we did Carson and Phil Donahue. It's funny. They were going out golfing, and Carson couldn't find his keys, and there's your sketch. Every time we come over here, it's the same darn thing. Oh, I can't find my keys. Weren't pretty good.
That's amazing.
I heard you say, I'm so fascinated with stand-up and also with your career. You've done so many amazing things, but also your history in stand-up. Like, you started with stand-up, and then SNL, and then stand-up now. Did you always do stand-up throughout the SNL career?
Oh, yeah. I did stand-up the whole time. I mean, particularly if I wanted to, like, you know, introduce a new character, you know. Like, I was telling someone this morning, like, you know, Al Gore was kind of a big hit for me, but I bet I took Al Gore up 300 times in the Village and couldn't get a laugh. You know, Gore at that time, there was a perception of him, nice guy, works hard, does well. And he is all that. But we never really heard him get excited or emotional. And when he got into that debate, the first debate, he did this like overbearing school teacher kind of thing. I was like, I got him. Hook. Because the rest of the time, he was just a Southern dude with a baritone voice. And
Sure. Is that what it takes? Because I do find, like, especially with your impressions, like, it is the caricatures, the cartoonish natures. I've heard you say, like,
which
you turn them into cartoons.
Dana and Lauren impressed upon me, too.
But what's funny about how powerful your impressions are on the show and in culture is we, as people, then remember those people as the voice of the impression. Like, what? There's like a phenomenon, I feel like. When I think of Bill Clinton, I think of your voice, not his.
Have you ever heard of the artist Hirschfeld? He did caricatures for the theater district in, I guess, 40s through 60 of all the celebrities. So you'd go to Sardi's and you would see Kate Hepburn, Bogey, and Cagney. And they looked more like Cagney than Cagney. You know, he had pronounced certain things about him, or those guys. And the same, I think, with impressions, you know.
There was one thing you did on Clinton, on your impression of Clinton, that then all the impressionists started doing that Clinton never did.
Well, the one thing was, you know, Clinton would do thumbs up a fair amount, and he'd bite his lip a fair amount, but never at the same time. So one time I was on stage at the Cellar, and I just went, and the place exploded. So from then on, whenever we did a Clinton bit, the writers would write in, does the thumb and lip thing. Yeah.
Did a lot of it come from the stage, like you're describing? Like, was that the measurement for what would be funny in America? Because I feel like it's that way with stand-up. Like, you work your sets, you try and get a special, and eventually you release a special for everyone to see besides the clubs. Was SNL like that?
I don't understand you.
Like, would you wait for get big laughs of the club before you introduce, like, something in an impression on SNL?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you got to come up with something.
Okay.
If you're lucky, you know, I could call up the Cellar and go, I'm doing Geraldo Rivera tomorrow. I got to find something. You know, and the caricatures are funnier than, like, my first show. I did Ted Koppel, pitch perfect, letter perfect, and it bombed. I mean, it's not a Vegas magic act. Turns out it's a comedy show.
Sure.
And you do your impression, you do your funniest version, the way that's getting the most laughs. I mean, we started out with Sean Connery. I was doing him letter perfect, and the first time I did it, I didn't get a big laugh. And then I forget who it was that walked out onto the floor, like during the thing, like my first line, you know, didn't get that big of a laugh. I forget who it was that walked out on the floor and started going like this. Pull it out of shape, stretch it, caricature it. And then from then on, I did some sort of weird Scottish guy. But it was a caricature of Connery, and the other thing about doing the cartoon, the caricature is that, you're working in a place where often you will not have seen these words before. That'll happen a lot. And under the best circumstances, you get to see them since Wednesday. But most of the time, I was in the topical pieces, and the topical pieces, they wait till the last minute to write.
Right.
To see how the story develops, right? So scary out there.
Yeah, well, it is like being on stage in my mind, where you have to get the laugh. You have to show up, like you were saying. It's the A team. You got to just bring it, even if you didn't see the words, right? You got to get the impression right.
Well, it's comme ci, comme ça, whatever that means. It's like a little of both.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, "Did you have to learn voices on Friday?" Because that was my gig, learning things on Friday night and having them ready in 24 hours. That's the pay. That's what I was getting paid for. And you don't always have it, but the standard I was using was let me do it well enough to get the laugh, so they know who I'm doing.
Right.
There's a little flexibility. But a lot of the voices I did, I didn't have them all the way, but they were good enough to get the laugh. The thing is, you get the laugh, that's how it's going to stay.
It sticks once the laugh's there, right?
Right. So when I went out as Gore in the first debate and did that sort of syrupy, overbearing teacher, someone from the New York Times called me and said, Gore's camp is studying you. like.
That's insane.
We're trying to show him what not to do.
Wow.
Gore was incorporating probably something from every speech coach he ever used. And as a result was doing too many things with his hands. Like most humans really only have 2 or 3 hand gestures.
Yeah.
And Gore was he had 6 that night. I could tell that he had been overcoached. And, he settled down after that. But that's the way we played him forever.
It stuck, yeah.
Yeah, and even when he went away for a while after he lost the election, and then he came back, he was different. He was a different guy. And I remember Lawrence saying to me, I said, what do I do? I mean, we don't want to get rid of the old guy, but here's the new guy. And he's split the difference. I mean, that's the kind of a place it is.
Sure.
Split the difference between 2 humans.
It must be trippy as a performer to influence the people you're doing so regularly. I mean, we're talking about politics and elections, and their team is coaching him. Has there ever been a moment, and I'm sure it's happened many times, where I know you did the correspondence dinner with Clinton, which is amazing, but was there a moment in SNL where you go, holy shit, this is affecting
I was
our
thinking
government?
about that this morning. There was a time when I realized that they're watching and it matters to them what you do. I think I was able to shake hands with Vice President Cheney, meaning show up where he was, shake hands. I was invited over to his home a couple of times. And then I realized, when you get a real sense of who these people are, holy moly, who they are. And the thing made me shiver. I was standing in Cheney's house one time, and it made me shiver. I was like, whoa. Whoa. I mean, the copters overhead. I mean, the Secret Service. I mean, on and on and on. If this guy suddenly decided he wanted to demolish you, he could go a pretty long way.
Sure. Also, what a unique relationship where, they want you to like them, so you kind of flatter them.
Yeah, it's like you have a photographer you like.
Yeah.
And the photographer walks in and sees what's in the room as opposed to what you think is in the room.
Yeah.
And they want to see what that is, yeah.
Yeah, they say it's flattery, but they want to be looked at in a positive light. And if you catch something that makes them look negative and it sticks and it's funny, it's going to stick forever for them.
And they're going to try to change it if they can or modify it.
Did that ever happen with politicians where they were like, I'm never going to... did Clinton, give up the thumb after the fame of the impression?
No, he didn't. He didn't give up either one of them, but he never did them together at the same time. And yet anytime you would see an impressionist on TV, he was doing that, right? And the same like with Dana, his genius, George Bush Sr.
Amazing,
course.
amazing.
I mean, Dana started out, and he explained this to me. He started out with a letter perfect George Sr. that you could look on a sonograph, on sonar, and see was probably molecularly identical.
Jeez.
But where's the funny?
Yeah.
Right.
So he did what he knew how to do and what he'd learned how to do. He stretched it and pulled it out of shape, and it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, traveling around the club, you see opening acts and doing their Bush, and they're doing Dana.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, where did he come up with that?
Yeah.
You know, not gonna die. Not gonna die. Like,
The rest
Dana
is
was
history.
so friggin' wonderful. When he did Regis, I really loved his Regis, and
yeah.
they wanted me to do Regis. I'm like, I think Dana got all of it.
Yeah.
And Lauren was like, find something.
You did Regis too.
I did, and it
Yeah.
went quite well for me.
Yeah.
But, you know, you look at someone like Dana's and go, you know, I'm going to be doing some of the stuff you're doing, Dana, because we're doing the same guy. But what I ended up doing was put it up in, you know, Dana was doing, I don't know how to put this. He was doing this like a chest voice from here down. You know, we all have 3 voices, so Dana was doing 2 of them. I just added a third, a higher nasality. So it'd be like, Joy and I were down in a cave on Tijuana that was 1,000 years old. It was 1,000 years old. You know?
It's perfect.
And that's just adding that third thing. I do shows with this guy Matt Friendly. He's a young impressionist.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Just a brilliant guy, and we do Trump together on stage. And
Wow.
his Trump is more baritone. I don't know why I always choose the high register. Like, you know, when Gary Oldman did Churchill, he was the only one that used Churchill's high register. Everyone else had it down there. But like, you know, with Matt Friend, he does this beautiful Trump from the chest.
Yeah.
So we do this thing where we alternate. Like, he'll start a line out for me, and then I'll tag it, you know, and it's pretty darn fun.
It's 2 Trumps, basically.
2 Trumps. Yeah.
It amazes me because it's such a talent that I know you started at a young age doing this, but there's so much science the way you describe doing it. Like,
Is there?
it sounds like it. You know where it's coming from, your voice, your head. You're like, is it from decades of doing it where you just know where you can
From
pull?
being a nerd.
Are you a nerd of impressions?
I'm a nerd of charisma. You know, when I was in college, I had an independent study course, and I freaked everybody out. I was like, I want to study charisma.
Interesting.
Why are these guys the most effective communicators? Why do they move people to tears? Because, you know, the truth is, and Trump knows this better than anybody, you know, this whole thing of going out there and delivered some, you know, Madisonian democracy, constitutional wisdom doesn't sell as well as making people feel something. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trump, I mean, you know, my liberal friends hate for me to say this, but, you know, I got, he guy's got some talent. He can read people.
If you're studying charisma, you're just saying. I mean, he's a very
Well,
charismatic person.
Let me take it back to the college course. In the college course, I did like Walter Cronkite, Harry Reasoner, and Howard K. Smith. They were the leading communicators in the whole world that day. More people watched them all the time. And yet they would have failed an oral interpretation course. That was the first thing, because I took oral interp, and I know they would have failed the course because they're doing what God is telling them to do. They're singing the song that God wrote for them. You know, you had Harry Reasoner starting up in here, Howard K. Smith reporting. You're failing, you know. This is Walter Cronkite, CBS News. You know, they're being themselves, and you know, there's a saying, and what's most personal is most general. The more authentic you are, the more people will be attracted to you, and I don't care what you're doing. That's why they say you don't ever want a baby on stage. with you because the baby can only be itself, or people can't take their eyes off the real thing.
Yeah.
What's most personal is most general.
Who do you? That's so true. Who do you? Is the most charismatic person you've studied or looked up to in your life that you've been like, wow, that I've never witnessed it more than that guy or girl? Or is there someone that sticks out?
Well, there's a number of them. I mean, from Reagan.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember Ross Perot.
Yeah, I used to love Dana Carvey did Ross Perot, right?
Yeah.
He did a great Ross Perot.
Yes, he did.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're doing stuff other people don't do because they're being themselves, and as a result, they're scoring. I mean, I can't get up and move around like Bush does, but think of who's a great example of this. Well, like with Trump, while other people are up there doing stuff of a Madisonian democracy, like voice gone 7 years ago, and we shall now be. Trump's like dogs. A lot of people like dogs. I like dogs. Cats are not nice. And that's the guy that wins the day.
Yeah.
When I was on stage with Michael Moore on Broadway, and he wanted, this is back when it was conventional wisdom to call Trump stupid.
Yeah.
Wrong. And I got him to, I think I said something to him like, are you telling me that even though he doesn't know what the Magna Carta is, that his cunning and his ability to read people and sense weakness in others is not a form of intelligence? It really is. I mean, he went way, way far. He don't know what the Magna Carta is. Do you see?
Mm-hmm. And to your point, there's charisma there. There's so much charisma.
That's the thing. Clinton, no one talks like that. No one talks like Clinton. No one talks like Churchill. No one talks like Reagan.
They're authentic people, beings.
They're being a live human.
Right.
A living creature that you can't take your eyes off of, I mean, Reagan, let me think of a good example of Reagan. Again, the premise is they would fail our interpretation class. But you could say to something to Reagan like that embarrassed him. And his answer, it would sound like he was saying something, but he wasn't. It'd be like, Mr. Reagan, there's a photo of you and some Nicaraguan rebels posing over some dead bodies with machine guns. You want to comment on that? Reagan would be like, well, if you take a bicycle pump and leave it outside overnight, all of a sudden,
You know what's crazy is I never thought of this, but Biden is a lot like Reagan in that sense. Now.
But I wouldn't call him a charismatic guy.
No, but I mean he kind of talks out of things in a way that like he falls asleep.
But Reagan was as cunning as the day is long.
And more charismatic than Biden.
Gigantic
probably.
Charisma. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Reagan, like chopping wood on his Texas ranch.
Yeah.
Takes his handkerchief out, wipes his brow. Well, and hello, and you're like, whew, I can't stop looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a showbiz to it, obviously, with his career that really matters. He was a performer, in a way.
If you make it a show, you'll go farther, but you gotta deliver the genuine thing.
Yeah.
There's so many of these.
Yeah.
Like Ross Perot went really far, and no one taught him how to do. When he communicated with people, he used metaphors, and it works. You'd be like, what do you think of the value-added tax, Mr. Perot? It'd be like, the cobbler's children always go barefoot. People go barefoot, go to jail. I love the fact that it costs more money to send the cobbler's child to the state penitentiary than send the same child to Harvard University. Y'all do what you want. Right?
What you're describing also is a confidence with your words, which has to do with stand-up in a way, too. It's people understanding who they are and how to be strong-willed in their conviction, right? You have to know that, like, have that confidence. I feel
know
like.
What?
Like, be sure of yourself and, like, kind of know.
Well, that's why we try them out.
Yeah.
That's why we go to the Comedy Chateau. What did Rodney used to say? You got to try him out of town, all right? Yeah.
Was Rodney? I know you did Dangerfield. Was that one of your first Dangerfield? Mm-hmm.
He was a big idol of mine. I thought he was the greatest joke writer I ever heard of. I mean, the guy was so brilliant. And I was at the Tonight Show one time, and he was so nice to me. Yeah, I used to do Rodney in Spanish. Really hacky stuff.
Oh no, it's not
No,
hacky.
and that wait, you made
No,
him
no.
You basically made him a cartoon, like you do. You cartooned his.
I exaggerated him.
Yeah.
You know, let me think.
It's one of my favorites.
Time magazine calls him one of the funniest men alive. He's Rodney Dangerfield, and now he's in Spanish. KTEL Records presents Rodney Dangerfield in español. Te ser simpático conmigo. Be nice to me, my friend. Porque mi novia es tan gorda. My wife, she is so fat. Que durante hacemos el amor. During sex. Yo tengo pediales direcciones, all right?
That is unbelievable.
He's one of the funniest men alive. He's Rodney Dangerfield, and now he's in Spanish. Rodney Dangerfield in español.
That is not hacky.
That's a great
It's
bit.
brilliant.
All right.
It's a
Brilliant.
great bit.
It's never failed to do well, but I was
Yeah.
always embarrassed. I think in the very beginning, I was just embarrassed that I did so many impressions, you know? And then when I got to New York, I couldn't get on stage anymore doing impressions. I just had one line in my act as Clinton, and I don't know why, because I got rid of the rest of them, and I had to actually learn how to write jokes and be, halfway
So
decent.
you're a fantastic stand-up without the impressions,
Right.
and then you throw in the impressions on top of it, and it's masterful. And
Well, I hope it's not too hacky. Bill Burr said
No.
something nice to me the other night, and I was like, well, you're the dude.
yeah,
You're the man.
how does that feel when you're at Swingers, right? And Bill Burr, who's one of the biggest comedians out there now, comes to you and
He
says
doesn't
he
strike me as
admires you, right?
insincere. I don't think he was bullshitting
No,
me.
not at all.
What'd he say?
I'm a big fan of yours. He yelled it out.
Nice. I feel like for comedians,
He's like twice the stand-up that I am, but it was nice for him to say that.
no. I feel like that's the best badge of honor in stand-up when you get the respect of other stand-ups.
Yeah, probably so. You don't get a lot of it, or if they have it, they don't necessarily deliver it to
Yeah.
you. You know, I remember one time before a show, the artist Ludacris.
Yeah.
He came over and sat down next to me on the stage and told me how much he admired my work. Like, made me cry.
Wow.
I mean, I was in Fort Lauderdale doing a corporate event, and Troy Aikman, the quarterback, walked in and told me he admired my work and it made me cry. I was like,
Wow.
"Whoa, what the hell?"
Yeah.
Because all I really know is a little kid in Melbourne, Florida, trying to learn how to talk like Porky Pig because I was by myself all the time. I didn't, or Popeye or something, and
Yeah.
it started there and it's still the same thing,
Have you maintained? It seems like you have. I know you've been through a lot of things in your life, but you've maintained that kind of healthy balance of the kid in Florida and the big. And then brushing elbows with the president at the time. You have to remain on earth in a way with the success of show business, or you'll go crazy, right?
I'm telling you, the second you get cocky up there, and I've talked to some pretty big people about it, the second you think you got this shit down, you're in for a bad night.
Yeah.
And it's like once a year we go on stage and we're just kind of not feeling it. So we go out there and we mouth the lines because this shit is funny. You should know it's funny. It's always funny, and I don't know why you're not laughing because that's the attitude you start to take. And the second the audience knows you don't like them, that's the end of the show. And you can get in trouble out there if you don't realize what a no man's land this is. This is a group of strangers. These are people you've never met. I mean, the funny thing about some of these impressions is, the audience has to basically understand your premise and know a little bit about it and basically agree with it. I think we heard Leno say one time, I hope, Jay, if this is you, not you, I'm sorry. I thought it was Leno that said you can't educate people and get people to laugh in the same moment.
Right. That's my fear with today. I feel like there's a lot of lectures on stage versus jokes, and that's a broad statement, but there is shift, I feel, in some ways.
I mean, and that was that way when I started.
was.
There were people who were like, I'm not getting the laughs I want, so I want to make a point,
yeah.
you know, socially.
You know, the best at that is Dave Chappelle. He'll take a social issue and find the
Right.
funny out of
Right.
it and have a good point with the laughter. I've never seen anybody that
How
can
many
do
Dave
it.
Chappelles are there?
Yeah. And you
One.
have to have
Just the one.
Just
you,
one.
yeah. And you
One.
have to have the laughs, in my opinion. Like, you have to
Yeah.
have laughs.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You got to have a laugh.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember, you know, being over at NBC and Lauren, and I've heard Seinfeld say this too, is like, this is a comedy show. Jokes. Nothing. The joke is the king here.
Mm-hmm.
You can't distract from it. You can't have too much cleavage. You can't have too much stuff going on. The joke's is the king. That's what's running the place, and paying your bills and keeping your lights
Yeah.
on. The joke.
That's what attracts me so much to stand-up is there's a humility to it at every level. The Jerry Seinfelds of the world, everyone who's been doing it for so long, you have to go back to the drawing board and write good jokes and make good material. And no one's above that, ever.
And you also have to say it as if you've never said it before.
Yeah.
You know, I remember seeing the Stones in concert, which Lorne Michaels also produced, the Steel Wheels tour.
Oh, yeah.
I only saw him, Mick Jagger, twice, and it informed everything that I did the rest of my life as a performer, and that was Jagger was saying these words as if he'd never said them, as if they were coming to him at this moment, and that if he didn't get this point across to you, that if you start me up, I'll never stop, he might just die. That's the intensity that he brought to the stage. And I saw him 2 weeks in a row do it. And I thought to myself, I know I can't always make that level, but I'm going to try for it.
Wow.
Like, I'm going to really shoot for it every time I go out there. I'm going to try to say these words as if I've never said them before.
Well,
that's the craft, because like when I used to write, I would write all my material down, and then what would happen is I would perform my material how I wrote,
Right.
and not how I spoke. And then and I learned from you and some other people, and I think Bill Burr. I just started putting bullet points down, and then just go have a conversation with the crowd. And I learned that from you because I watch you perform all the time, and you're always changing up your material, and you're saying it fresh. And I think the real craft that you've mastered is the ability to say it like you've said it. You're saying it like you said the first time, and have it think. But you're
Yeah.
always mixing it up and playing around
The
with it.
reason
and
I
having
do
fun.
that is because I'm always worried that I can walk into a rough patch. I can walk into the wrong topic, and this mostly started during the Trump era, where you could have enough Trumpers in the audience to disrupt the show.
Yeah, you can lose them.
You could lose the whole crowd.
Yeah.
I was in Jacksonville one time. I'm going to be almost verbatim here, and I was like, "So anyway, Trump," you know, and from the back, I get, "Huh? I wouldn't if I were you."
Oh, man.
I'm like, "Wow, okay, yeah, ass beating takes away from the comedy."
Right. We know where you're staying.
But it was like, wow,
Yeah.
wow.
You've walked that you know you do Trump in your act, and you walk that fine line where you're not divulging any particular side, and you stay in the middle and just report what you see. You know.
Well, you know, I found that out with Cheney too. You know, I want to find the thing that both sides can agree enough upon that the whole room can laugh. I don't want to isolate the whole crowd, and that's
Sure.
sheer cowardice on my part. I want as many people to laugh as I can get them to laugh. And so, you know, with Cheney, we did the wisecracking tough guy. Both sides said, okay.
Yeah. Fine with that.
You know, Trump, I do the word salad. He's manipulative as hell, but he is smart enough to know that making you feel something is better than making you think something.
Right, right. And everyone knows that about him. Both sides know
Yeah,
that.
he's not actually saying a lot.
Yeah.
If you see him up there, he's so meticulous to stay, you know, one molecule shy of a defamation suit. You know, he knows how to pull back, when to pull back, and so expertly. And then there's the subliminal things with the half sentences. I mean, to tell me he's not an effective communicator is crazy. And I think I got Michael Moore to admit that night on Broadway, which impressed me because I admire Michael Moore's work,
Sure.
you know.
You mentioned earlier, you know, getting a little pep in your step with shows like you want, and to the Mick Jagger version of you, how much of it is your verbatim, your material, and how much are you loose? Because I'm so intrigued by doing stand-up where I've talked to guys like you, Jay Leno. You have to constantly evolve your material. When do you get to a point where you kind of print? Do you ever get to a point where you print, this is working?
No, the only time you do that is when you're doing a talk show set. When you're doing Letterman, it's got to be exactly as it is on the paper.
Got it.
You know.
Okay.
But the other times, I don't know what's going to happen out there.
Yeah.
And Trump himself was on our set one day, and he said, I'm not funny, and I can't act. Like, how do I do this? And he figured out, he was there earlier than, I know, boy, this is probably, a lot of people hate me for saying this. He was there early, and he came home, and he's late. And he said, I know I can figure out a way to do something I don't know how to do. You know? And he said it was being impromptu, being spontaneous. So to do that, he would deliberately derail a line for a second. And that's what he said he was going to do. And then go back on. But that way he kept himself alive, the material alive, and he had a great show.
I've seen you perform a lot. I feel like you do that as well. I've seen you do similar sets or different things, but there is that spontaneity you can't write in a way, right? That you have to maintain per show to be a comedian.
That's because I'm always trying to stay untethered. I don't want to commit to something I can't get out of.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know when that happens. You know, and also, you can say the wrong thing and step over the line. I mean, the closer you are to distasteful, the funnier you are. But you just don't want to go over the line too. And if you do, you want to call yourself out on it.
Yeah.
And you damn well better be funny.
It has to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. There was I love blue material. I don't care. But I'm uncomfortable if they're not getting the laugh.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like, how many times have we seen this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, how many times have we seen it?
Well, we followed it recently. Right?
Do you guys know what I mean when I say lima bean studded turd?
Yeah. That's a hard person to follow when you got somebody that's doing blue material that's
man.
not funny.
Yeah.
And they lose the crowd, and then you got to go up after and try to win the crowd back. There's nothing harder than that.
That's happened to me, and I'm having sets at the store and the Improv, and I'm doing Bourbon Room. So I'm doing those three, and they're big rooms, and I've gone on stage and not been able to do I couldn't. There were a couple times I just couldn't do it. I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
How am I to follow that?
That is interesting to hear from your standpoint because, and Greg, you taught me this as well. Like, it's all learning in a way. There's always something you got to weasel your way out of when you're doing stand up. Like, if you follow someone like that, you got to kind of try and weasel. It doesn't go away.
Well, if the topic is jizz,
Yeah.
and the other comics after the jizz comic,
Yeah.
you got to refer back to it.
I've heard your
Yeah,
20
yeah.
minutes on that. I've heard your 20 minutes.
My 20 minutes on jizz.
Yeah, I've heard that. I know you have
Jizz
that.
globules.
What about
Impressions.
There's you taught me a valuable lesson one night. We were doing a show during the pandemic, and I was following Bill Burr, and Bill Burr just massacred. And I'm sitting with you, and I'm like, oh God, this is brutal. And how do you follow Bill Burr? And you said to me, go, listen, you go up, acknowledge his thing, call out the elephant in the room, acknowledge his set.
And how great he is, and how much you enjoyed it too. You love him.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and Bill was talking about relationships, and
Yeah.
then you go into your set, but you got to do it.
You have to
and then-
acknowledge it. Yeah.
And I followed your advice, and it worked.
Yeah.
I bombed a few times, bro.
I don't like when I see comics in that environment where they kind of talk about how they're about to bomb because Jerry Seinfeld was just on stage, and it's like, you can only talk about it for so long.
No,
You know?
that's not right. He doesn't eat up the room and kill the crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still a comedy crowd. Yeah.
No, he doesn't do that. Still, they're maximum comedy ready. After they've been with the master, who's not injurious in any way, you know.
Yeah.
You said you've bombed a bunch. Is there a funny story that comes to mind about like a bomb scenario where it sticks out and you go, man, I couldn't get him?
I mean, I remember bombing in front. I went out on stage, and this is back when my manager and me, and none of this is a long time ago. we didn't really know what we were doing. So we took a $5,000 job in Daytona. And I go out on stage to see 5,000 12-year-olds
Oh,
and younger.
wow. That's brutal.
The second I said something like, I think I said the word shitload. And of course, you know, they want to be dutiful lads and lasses. Want to make mommy proud of them. Mommy can't laugh. Daddy can't laugh. So they start howling with fury. So I got booed off stage by children.
Wow, that's brutal.
I got booed off in the Bronx once, and after 18 minutes, I was supposed to do 45. They booed me off after 18 minutes. And I heard from the back, I heard someone yell out, "He's wounded. Finish him off." I'm like, whoa. You know, I don't think I can tell the story with Greg about our story, can I?
Oh, yeah. Tell it, please.
Greg and I took a job with a friend of ours. I don't even know what neighborhood that was.
Inglewood.
That was Inglewood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
So-
You guys did the Forum?
No, no. Yeah, we did the forum. It was was that the forum? No, it was not the forum.
We did a show at like
Yeah.
the Masons, some social place, and Greg went up, and they didn't applaud him. Remember this,
Oh yeah, I remember.
ladies and gentlemen? Greg Baldwin, nothing, no laughs. All right, now let me do a setup, a prologue to this. Before Greg went up, there was feedback in the system, and the audience began to complain very loudly that they can't hear the comedy. They can't hear the comic. So our friend Darrell goes out there and is like, "Look, I know y'all are upset because you can't hear the comedians, all right? But look, somebody put chicken in the microwave, and that caused the whole system to disrupt, and that's why you're getting the feedback and can't hear the comedy. So we have fixed it. We took the chicken out the microwave, and we're gonna have a show." But they didn't like us. They were determined not to. I don't know what it was. Greg went up. He's bombing. No applause. So he's going into it with zest. He's really, really performing it. I mean, he really was performing it about his friend Darrell Wood. And at one point, when he got to the point of crossing wiener or crossing swords, from the back of the room, you hear a voice go, "Put the chicken back in the microwave." No, put that thing back in the microwave. You want to hear this, motherfucker?
Best heckle ever.
It is.
Put
Never
the chicken back in the microwave. I don't want to hear this, motherfucker.
Never gonna beat that heckle.
That's brilliant in its own sad way, but funny way now, but hard for you guys then.
It was so bad. That night was so bad that we had the best time on the way home.
That's
I've
the
never
best.
seen you laugh that hard. We were driving home going, that was so brutal. It was the greatest night of
the
comedy
funniest thing
in
I've ever
history.
seen.
Yeah, I love this story because it reminds me of crowd work and spontaneity of show business. And I was nerding out with you a little bit about Steve Allen before, who I love. Steve Allen, the original host of the Tonight Show, who talks a lot about. We've talked about this, Greg. Like some of those moments you can't write, and you can't you can. It happens in the moment, and it can be some of the funniest stuff that ever happens on stage, on TV.
It is the funniest stuff.
It is.
Those are the biggest laughs.
Yeah,
When
it's like
something goes wrong.
yeah. I mean, Carson was a genius of that as well. Every time a joke bombed,
Good God.
you know.
It was
incredible.
The story about Carson with the tomahawk, right?
Yeah.
And the guy's throwing the tomahawk, and then he's talking about, he made a reference to circumcision or something or whatever.
And then he hit it right.
And then just
Ames.
kept, huh?
Oh, okay, go on.
Yeah.
No. And then the laughter just kept rolling.
Yeah.
And he just let it go. And it was just one after a laugh, and he just let it go. And it was, he just milked
Listen, when someone told me that they would actually write bad jokes and put them in the middle of the monologue so he could riff. I don't know if I can do Carson. I'll try.
Awesome.
It was so cold in Tempe, Arizona. Yeah.
That's a brilliant
Oh my God, he sounds
impression.
just like him.
Is it?
Yeah, oh my God, it's
it's
amazing.
Oh, I remember this. So
Yeah.
he peels off, and he goes, "You can't hurt me." and then here we go. May a weird holy man shit on your cornflakes. Explosion. There's the genius.
That's it. There it is.
Yeah. I mean, when there was this one time I told this joke about President Clinton. I was a dumb fucking guy. I didn't know. I didn't really understand how dangerous the White House Correspondents' Dinner can really be. If the president doesn't laugh, trust me, the rest of the room won't laugh
Right.
either.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for being
This
here.
is
I really love
fantastic.
chatting with you.
This is unbelievable.
I'm very grateful for you to take the time. I look up to you as a comedian, and I
Hmm.
just love hearing your stories. It's amazing to hang with you.
I feel pretty darn good about being here. You know, I love Greg, and the times I met you, I enjoyed meeting you. And now I'm gonna do something all natural. I think I'm gonna light a cigarette. Does that
Please
sound-
light a cigarette.
You see, you can't see, but I'm on the patch,
Okay.
so I can't take too many puffs.
Yeah.
You know, like you get dizzy really quick, so I just take a couple.
Because you're smoking, I want to smoke with you. I think it'd be fun.
Please.
Tell me about you on stage. I feel like, obviously here in LA, you're performing quite a bit. How often are you performing?
I don't know, man. Sometimes 5 times a week,
Okay.
around 3, 4, something like that.
And do you you seem like you're scientific about your stand-up? We were talking about Leno earlier, and you said once you watched him with a stopwatch and his material, do you approach
And I
stand-up?
don't know what possessed me to do that, except that, you know, I was there with Billy Gardell, and we were open micers at the time, and we couldn't imagine someone that just never had blank spots. And it was just bam, bam. I mean, it was astonishing
Yeah.
to see the first time.
The way he approaches it, though, is scientific, I think, where he thinks the same way. He goes, I have this many laughs. This is how well the joke's doing. He's a brilliant wordsmith of a joke writer. I'm curious with you at how much you're performing. Are you constantly cataloging and trying to scientifically, expert your set? Or are you not that tight about it?
I'm not that tight about it, although lately I've been thinking about it again quite a bit because I'm doing, there was a project that I wanted to happen, but COVID took it away, and it's never really been resurrected. So I'm just like, you know what, let me do some shows. So now I'm sort of starting to think like that again and go through the awful misery of listening to myself, when I have new material, making sure I write it down.
Do you watch yourself or listen to yourself back to fix it or to change it?
To what?
To improve the material? Do you watch or listen to yourself after?
Well, my idea has always been to make one improvement per week. End of the year is 52 improvements. So I don't care what it is. One improvement, one half line, one line. And I just look for that thing in the set where it was, that's new.
Yeah.
Let me keep that, which is what I got from Richard Pryor. Pryor would riff on 44th Street in Manhattan. And he'd keep the stuff that worked. So you'd see stuff that was one line, and 2 years later it was in, Live on the Sunset Strip. And it was 2 minutes long.
Yeah. You said something brilliant about him, I heard, that really made me think. You said his setups were him, and then he would do a voice.
Yeah, that's
That was a
where I
punch.
got my style, and Cosby did that too. They would do the setups in their own voice, and then they perform the punchline in character.
Do you meet people sometimes and you hear their voices and you go, "You're ridiculous. I gotta put this on stage and see if this comes into something."
I have.
Has it affected your personal life? If you met dating somebody,
Well, they
you
always
go,
say at SNL that I only use my powers for good. So I don't impersonate people, especially once I stop caring about them. That's why I can't do Colin Quinn. Apparently I'm the only one. I just love him so much, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think, when Cheney and those guys would have me around, and Clinton too, I think the point is to make me like them and see them as people.
Yeah.
And to think about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Think about that these are real life people too, with families and grandkids and so forth, and like that. So, I mean, I've always been accused of being too nice.
That's not a bad thing to be accused
No,
of.
I mean, what Pryor would do is before he would hit somebody, he would compliment them,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I always try to do. So like when I was doing Trump and stuff, back when I was doing Trump, it's like I always wanted to make sure we saw that he's not just one-dimensional.
Yeah.
You know, that the guy has kids, the guy fumbles and falters when he's walking around like everybody, the rest of us do.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to play him like that, you know, and I think that, you know, we reached a point, and this is what I was saying with Michael Moore, is the whole point of being on Broadway with him, was that you had to take a side. You had to attack from one side or the other, you know. And my stuff's always middle of the road, you know, just like point, you know, he's kind of kooky, he's overconfident, okay. You know, his people can accept that. And then he's manipulative, and they can accept that. But when you get into motives, personal motives, and is this a bad guy, you'll lose them.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll keep your Democrats, but you'll lose your Republicans.
That's what comedy is about. And I think that we've strayed away from that culturally, but you're describing how comedy always should be, in my opinion. I feel the same way about it. It's like everyone should be able to laugh if it's a comedy show. But we are getting more and more one-sided about how you do things on stage. And, well, you joked about this, so you hate the right, you hate the left. Do you think about that these days when you're performing now? Or you sounds like you make sure you're complimentary and in the middle for whoever it is.
If it's politics or religion, you got to stay in the middle. Trump has tweeted about me twice.
Jeez.
Yeah.
While he was
tweeted about-
president?
While he was president.
Jeez.
That's got to be bizarre.
You know, my phone is blowing up by every person I ever met is calling me, and all I could think of, oh my God, Vlad Putin knows who I am.
Oh, God.
I'm on his radar.
I think Twitter banned him because of you.
I've been Googled in the Kremlin.
Well, you have a unique standing in culture and comedy, though, where I was saying earlier, the influence of your impressions and your work is global like that. That's a wild thing to just kind of sit in for a second. You affect presidents, you affect public people. Has there ever been, and you could tell me as much as you want, do you ever see a Secret Service car outside your house and, like, you know, in the heyday and be like, what's going on? Anything ever, like, weird happen because of the influence?
I was walking on 49th Street. I went over to a friend of mine's house and fell asleep and woke up around 3 or 4 in the morning, and I had to go back to my apartment. So I'm walking down 49th Street towards 6th Avenue to look for a cab. And these two men, rather swarthy, get out of a car. And some guy's like, Hammond, how are you doing? Hey, listen, we want to talk to you.
Oh, God.
Come on. Let's go for a ride. I'm like, it's that weird feeling you get when you know you're about to go in the trunk of a car. You know, I had that in New Orleans one time. My first day I was there, I was having a burger in the French Quarter, and I felt this hand slide across my back. And I hear a man say to me exactly like this, "We thought you might want us to sit with you." And I'm like, just as these like two behemoths get in the booth, two more big, and they had expressions which were roughly like this. Like this. And they were, and I remember I thought I'm dying. I'm gonna die tonight. So I said, I'd love for you to sit at my table. I just need to use the bathroom. So I get up and I'm walking towards the bathroom, and I say to the waitress, "Hey, in the French Quarter, this is my first day there. I go, do you guys sit at each other's tables?" She goes, "No, he's an asshole. Just wait." So she goes out on to St. Louis Street, in front of the place. And about, not long, a few minutes, these four horsemen, these four gorgeous horses, giant horses, pull up with guys that look like New Orleans Saints, man. These were French Quarter cops who are the world's leader in crowd control. And those dudes don't play. And I'll never forget when they pulled up how silent the bar got. Because anyone from New Orleans knows who they are and that someone's fucked up.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen now, because it's not going to be good. You know, I mean, that's the kind of respect these guys were commanding.
Sure.
Then this guy walks in, and he walks up to my table, and he goes like this, "How y'all doing?" I went, "Wow, Terminator's a black dude," because they were that.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you understand?
Sure.
They were these guys they were like limbering up outside like sprinters, like getting ready to go in there because they're into an ass whooping if they had to.
Yeah.
And the guys were just like, if termites could talk, sort of. You saying we're doing fine? And they were frightened out of their wits. We're doing fine, sir. So the guy goes, in the French Quarter, life is all about choices. The choices we make determine how we live the rest of our lives. Now, you could mind your own business, enjoy your meal, and let everyone else here do the same. Or you could act a fool. And they call us to change your mind. How do you think we change your mind? It does not involve a group hug. And they're like, well, I guess we can leave. He said something about involves altering a person. Like we could tune up a motherfucker. Or we could alter a person. In a tune-up, a man wakes up, got a headache. You alter another, wake up with a speech impediment. Start using one of them Craftmatic adjustable beds. Walk-in tub.
It reminds me of the old school kind of mafia, and the mafiosos show up and they're being real nice, but in a matter of a second they'll break your legs. Similar intimidation.
I had a similar experience. One time when I was living on 53rd Street and there was a bar on 46th Street, and this guy came in that we knew, and he was supposedly quote unquote connected because he always, for whatever reason, people thought that about him. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Yo, Darrell, I never seen you drink in the daytime before. What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, this guy I let stay in my apartment told me I have my head up my ass and I'm going to hit him with a lamp." And he goes, "Wait a second. You know what happens when you hit people with a lamp? Do you know what comes after?" He goes, "You go to the penitentiary." He goes, "But the worst part of it is 99% of humanity feels bad when they gouge out an eye because they're mad or hit a guy with a bottle. They feel bad about it the next day that they hurt someone that badly, but they still got to go to penitentiary." And he says, "Where is this guy?" I go, "In my apartment." He goes, "Give me your keys." This is all true. I'm recounting it as best I can. I obviously don't have an audio recording. And he comes back like a half an hour later with a golf club. And he walks up to me, he settles into the bar, he goes, "He's gone." I go, "Who's gone?" He goes, "The guy. He left." I was like, "How did you get him to leave?" He goes, "I talked to him." I says, "And what did you say to him?" He's like, "I says, my friend used to sleep with somewhere else tonight. He starts into, I'm an asshole and this and that." I says to my friend, "You're just going to sleep somewhere else tonight, or you're going to sleep in the trunk of a fucking car, Kennedy Airport, long-term parking." And he goes, anyway, he left.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And he goes, "So Benny, let's get some drinks over here. Let's have drinks for the bar, all right?" I'm like, "Benny's not kind of expensive." He goes, "Darrell, your friend, he was a nice guy. He give me his wallet." This is the best part of the story. He goes, "I don't know. People are weird."
I don't know.
There's one of the greatest mobsters in TV history was James Gandolfini. And you had lunch with him.
I had dinner with him.
Or dinner with him.
Oh my gosh.
He was working on a movie where he was going to play a hitman who was gay, so he wanted to learn how to do a gay guy, or what that entailed. Did that mean, is there a way to do it? I said, but there's no way to do it. I mean, you're gay because you're gay. The stereotype, that if you just go in there and do some sort of phase stereotype, no one likes that.
Yeah.
And it's not good. I was like, you just play the line, like any other line. You don't have to do nothing like that. But we were drinking martinis, and man, I can drink a martini. I can really get into that. And I'm like on 3 or 4 martinis. We're at this place, a restaurant called the Five Towns in Little Italy.
Okay, yeah.
And he asked me if I think I'm hitting it a little too hard. And I say to him, "What, you think I'm hitting it too hard?" And he goes, "Jesus fucking Christ." Jesus fucking Christ. Yes.
That is
my
Tony
God.
Soprano right there, dude.
It's my favorite character of all time.
I
Yeah.
to myself, Tony Soprano just said Gija.
I love that story.
Talk about what you were saying earlier, authentic voices and charisma. I mean, he had it more than anybody, especially in that character. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I mean, you could have put him in another character and we might not have seen the charisma.
Right,
Put
yeah.
him in that part. It was the right part for him. Mm-hmm. Some people get the role of a lifetime.
Sure.
Like the guy that played Pablo Escobar. I don't know how anyone can do anything better than that.
Yeah.
He was
Like,
great.
I don't know how anyone can be better at anything than
And
that.
Narcos, you mean?
Narcos,
Yeah,
yes.
Narcos, yeah.
I'm from Jersey. I'm Italian, and I've seen The Sopranos 6 times. So you're speaking my language. It's my favorite thing.
I've seen him 3 times. I'm starting on Narcos for the 4th time.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that one so much, and I love Narcos Mexico, man.
Oh,
Yeah, I
so
saw,
good.
I saw
The
season 1 of
best.
that. Yeah, it's incredible. What I love about your voice and your voicings is I started listening to your book on Audible. And what's amazing about, obviously people could read your book, but I really enjoy the audio version of your book because the way you describe these stories, the way you talk about your life, it's all these different voices and it's laugh out loud funny. Even your childhood stories, like you're doing voices of people from childhood. So just walk me through real quick, as I want people to check out your book as well, what that process was like for you writing it, but then also voicing it. You did a whole voice performance for that.
Yeah, there was a one-man show about it that got canceled by COVID twice. I'm sorry. Can't stop thinking about that some days.
I know.
I don't know. I did 63 people in that show. In 90 minutes. I mean, I find it hard. I've always found it hard to focus for that long. Because my brain flies all over the place. That's why I'm a good Adderall candidate, which I don't take anymore, but I used to.
Well, the book's fantastic. I'm in like chapter 5 right now, I think. So I'm still getting through it, but I wanted to read some of it, and I think it's just awesome. It's great to hear your story and also hear you voice it. I recommend people listen to it, also read it, but listening to it is really special.
I listened to it. It was phenomenal because you take us on a journey and you integrate all these voices and you go from telling SNL stories and doing impressions to your childhood growing up and trauma and all these different areas. It's just
Yeah,
phenomenal.
I really stuck out like a sore thumb in that environment. A kid that curious and that open-minded, and my housekeeper was African American, and I loved her, and really it was the only love I was getting. I mean, when I was growing up, my father was sitting out in the yard with a bottle of Beefeater, thinking about Hitler because he'd done World War II, and
Wow.
and that never left him ever. Nazis and so forth.
Jeez.
Like, even at the end of his life, occasionally he would wake up screaming.
Oh my God.
And having those. My mom didn't want to be there either, and I had this. We had a housekeeper named Murtis who loved me, and otherwise I would end up being fucking Ted Bundy. Honesty is the first casualty of child abuse. The truth is the first casualty of child abuse.
Sure.
It's amazing because when we tour and go places and stuff, people come up to you more and talk to you about your book and your documentary and say how much you move them and help them because they've dealt with similar issues, you know?
I mean, it's translated into 5 languages, and
Yeah.
I've probably seen 1,000 letters or so. And so, you know, I was in Sarasota one time, and this happened to me once at the Grove, where someone came up and thanked me for saving their daughter's life.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. I just relayed their words. You know, I mean, there's lots of reasons why I wrote the book, but in the documentary, you know, the producers and directors, Geraldine Dreyfus and Michelle Ezrick, convinced me that if I could help one person, would it be worth doing? And I thought to myself, if there'd be one person who would not end up like I did, making the mistakes I made because I didn't know what I was doing, trying to so hard to be a parent or be a boyfriend or be a husband when I came from, you know, hell. People were breaking shit all the time. My father had to think about breaking things. He would, you know, the guy would fucking hit my door with a baseball bat in the middle of the night while I'm sleeping.
Jeez.
Well, how am I going to do at the game that day?
Yeah.
Think I'm going to hit well today?
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you, because there's a certain level of being public that not everybody, some people would shy away of showing all their cards. And it sounds like you hit a point in your career where you went, you know, and I have something to share because I could be of service. I could help others.
Now, here's the honest truth is that, you know, the perpetrator victims have a contract. The contract is if you tell people, I'll hurt you worse, or I'll never stop doing it. You know? So I had that. And it's almost like the real crime isn't the abuse itself or hitting your child with a ball-peen hammer. The real crime is being expected not to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
in situations where you don't tell.
That's the courage that you displayed in the book and the documentaries. You talked about it.
You
And you
know,
made people.
Because my chief antagonist, my perp, died.
Yeah.
I was
Oh.
scared of her all the way till the end.
right.
Still scared of her.
Sure.
The book is called
God,
God.
if you're not up there. You do it.
No, God, if you're not up there, I'm fucked.
Right.
Yep.
And the documentary is called
Cracked up.
The Darrell Hammond Story.
That's right. I want to make sure everybody checks that out. And Darrell, before you leave here today, you've done something with Greg on stage. I know with Jay Moore. Did want to do this with you today. If we could get a little finagle of a couple more voices from you. You done with voices?
No. What do you think?
I want to try a rapid fire of your voices before you go, of a few of your bag of voices.
Well, who has the list?
We both do. I'm very honored you're here. We have so many great impressions you've done, but let's try a handful of these.
And by the way, you always forget to do this. So I'm going to do it for you. Your social media, Instagram, at Darrell C. Hammond.
Yes.
We always forget to do that wherever we go, at Darrell C. Hammond.
Yeah.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
Someone from U.S. News and World Report told me that I lost the election for Al Gore, so that's why I stopped doing him.
Whoa.
That hurt.
So that we were talking about the influence. That was a real life
That hurt.
thing.
And that's like, wait, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. I don't think you should carry that though. It's an election.
It still bothers me. But
Yeah.
whatever.
But I mean, like it's bigger than I don't know.
I had the same problem with John McCain. I did a great John McCain, I was told. And then my father died a soldier's death, and I couldn't play. I didn't want to make fun of a soldier. Like, that's how my dad and I bonded. You know, he said I was a really good soldier, and we went through his career and looked at his medals.
Wow.
And then he confessed to me that he'd been a good soldier, but a bad dad because he'd let his anger be more important to him than his children. And so going through all of that, I came back the following year, and I just couldn't make fun of a soldier anymore. I should have bowed out,
Wow.
and I didn't know how.
What's great about you is you have a heart to everything you do. You have a good genuineness to your work. Like, you know, these days a lot of people might not have that type of character. They might just say, you know, I'm going to get big laughs. I'm going to do it. You seem like you're connected to what's right and what's good about
I don't
your
know
work.
if that's true or not, but I do try to say something good if I'm going to say something bad.
Yeah. I think that's a good quality to you as a performer because some people will just be bad. That's my point.
Well, I'm afraid of some of the people I do too. Like when you witness their power,
Yeah.
it's intimidating to me.
Yeah. Well, you described being at Cheney's. I don't know if I'd ever want to be at Cheney's. That sounds really scary.
Or go hunting with Cheney.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
there was Supreme Court justices there. It was really intimidating for me to be there, and but I was so flattered. You know, I'm walking in, someone goes, "Social Security number," and I'm like, and the guy rattles it off for me. I'm like, oh.
Jeez, they got you. They know it all.
Yeah. There was a time when, back when, for those who haven't read the book, I was a cutter. I used to cut myself a lot, and I had been in the emergency room at Cornell Hospital the night before, and they'd released me the following morning because I wasn't out of my mind, just tortured, and they didn't want to hold me for that. So I'm back on the set at SNL the very following day. I'm bandaged up and everything, and this guy comes up to me and he says, "Hi," and he gives me his name and his card. And he goes, "I'm director of the Secret Service for the North Quarter. I just want to say, if you're ever in D.C. and you need some help with anything, you just give me a call." And I thought, I'd like to go to the Supreme Court. He's like, "Call me.
Damn.
We'll go to the Supreme Court." So he walks away, and just before he turns the corner, he looks back at me and he goes, "By the way, how you doing? Are you back up to speed?" Or I went, I'm okay. So my friend Eddie was there, who was head of security for GE and former FBI guy and former NYPD, and a great friend of my dad's, by the way. And I said, "Eddie, how the fuck does he know that?" He goes, "Darrell, you hugged W. W gave you a hug. Sarah Palin gave you a hug. McCain gave you a hug. There's nothing they don't know."
Damn.
And I mean nothing. And I'm like, "You mean like porn and pot? My porn and my pot?" That's all I could think of. I mean, you mean like my porn and my pot? He goes, "Yeah.
Everything?
Your porn and your pot." And I go, "Well, what do they think of me?" He goes, "They've seen every word ever written about you by
Damn.
any doctor."
Wow.
I was like, "Then what do they think of me?" He goes, "They think you're a good guy. You're just a little loopy." He goes, "They're going to let you hug the president?"
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be vetted, man. It's a no joke
Yeah, and I agree with it, by the way.
vicinity. Yeah.
You
Think
read
about it.
Whatever, if I'm going in the Oval Office, read whatever you want to read.
Yeah.
And if I don't belong there, you just let me know. It's already scary enough.
I like that they said loopy. I feel like you love that
Yeah,
characterization.
you're a good guy, just a little loopy.
Yeah, you're a good guy, a little loopy, good guy.
Just a little loopy,
Hey.
that's all. He's
Sounds
a little loopy, that's all.
Sounds like your friend from the bar, you know? Hey, I took care of your friend, Loopy. Come on, let's have a drink.
He's a little loopy, that's all.
Hey. If we go Italian Gangster, I can lean into that one. That one's my favorite one because it's
Really?
home. Well, it's home for me.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in New Jersey, in the suburban streets of New Jersey, you know? Not that dangerous, but people around me were. Sort of.
I was always fascinated by them. I
You-
like how they do this. That's my favorite thing ever.
Well, the thing about Italians, you think it's a caricature. I don't know if you've been to Italy. I'm sure you have.
No.
Oh, you haven't? You never been to Italy? So the thing about, you should, because I would love to see you do an Italian impression, because it's all the things you see Italians do, it's not, the impressions are actually not as big as people speaking Italian. It's truly part of the language. When you speak Italian, that's why the gangsters of Jersey growing up, all this stuff is really talk. It's a language. It's like, it's truly a language.
Yeah, got it. That's interesting.
You know, they do this. This isn't it. That one, my grandpa used to do that one.
Colin does that a lot.
Who?
Colin Quinn does that really well.
Yeah.
When he's talking about people he's known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those. I grew up with all those. It's like crazy. All right, Darrell, you've been here for a while. I appreciate you hanging out with us. We're going to do the rapid fire.
Fuck, man.
Darrell
I
Hammond.
missed my appointment today.
Oh, no.
Which
we kept
one?
you from an appointment?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be this long. I loved it. I was having a good time.
I had a great time with you. let's do a few real quick, and then we'll get you out of here. All right, Greg, you start.
Don Knotts.
Don Knotts.
But
Why are you laughing? It's so good.
hey, give me a minute to warm up. Wait. But Andy, I didn't mean to shoot Aunt B.
That is so good, dude. I grew up watching that show.
Sean Connery.
You don't have to think about it. Just nod.
I don't know if you still do him, but I'm curious to know if you still can do Leno.
Well, it's very exciting. Actually, even more exciting, you know, but this is true. Oh, no, I'm not making this up. Ladies and gentlemen, oh, no. It's so stupid. It's unbelievable.
Let's hear your Leno real quick.
Well, my Leno, guys, did you hear about this the other day? You know, Kevin, you hear about this? Darrell Hammond came by. Darrell Hammond, by the way. And he goes down. That's what I discovered about him in person.
This is so stupid. This is unbelievable.
Yeah. You see this guy wearing the hat? I mean, people wear hats like this in the world, but I love that he goes down. I never figured that
I
out.
like his when he first comes out, and I can't do it unless I'm standing up, but it's like, thank you. It's very exciting. Actually, even more exciting. You know, but this is true.
Yeah, like the little, like, hey, you guys, did you hear about this? He's my favorite.
You know,
And-
Sears Roebuck, Sears with a lawnmower. Apparently, Sears Roebuck's gonna start selling McDonald's hamburger. Ooh, go to McDonald's. Ooh.
That's the best. I love Jay. Go ahead, hit him with one more.
Truman Capote. I know you love this one.
The village of Holcomb stands in the high wheat plains of western Kansas, an area that other Kansans call out there. The men wear Stetson hats and high-heeled boots with pointy toes.
That is brilliant.
And it's because I love Italians, and I love that you do Gandolfini, but I heard you do a Michael Corleone, Al Pacino, and it's standing. Is that true? And it's silent.
No.
Pacino.
Pacino with his jaw wired shut.
Yeah.
Oh.
In Godfather 1. Let's see. What does it say if we can't kill a cop? Now, I'm talking about a cop. Now, I'm talking about a crooked cop that got mixed up in the rackets and got what was coming to him. It's a terrific story. We have those people on the payroll, don't we, Bob? We do indeed. All right, Sonny, it's not personal. It's strictly business. Is that okay?
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? It's brilliant.
I'm like, it's one of my favorite characters of all time.
What
Like
is it?
teary-eyed watching you.
I'm talking about a cop. I'm talking about a crooked cop.
Oh my
Got
God.
mixed up in the rackets and got what was coming to him.
That's unbelievable. You want to do another one?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Popeye, one of your early ones. Brilliant.
Chris Matthews.
Yes. The best.
What do I say?
Tom Cruise.
Huh?
The Tom Cruise.
Oh. Daryl, Tom Cruise gonna get braces. I was at his house one day. He's like, Tom Cruise gonna get braces. I was like, what does that even mean? He's like, maybe something about him be straight now. And I go, see? That is not right.
That is brilliant.
Daryl, I'm kidding. Tom Cruise is not gay. When I fucked him, he cried the whole time.
Man, these are the best. You want to do any more? Daryl, that's amazing. I love that you're doing
Foghorn Leghorn, my favorite comedian.
Coldest winter on way here. Feels like it's already here. If I have to spend another winter in this air-conditioned deep freeze, I'll freeze my tail. I'll freeze my tail feathers off.
Ted Koppel.
See my hiney, big and shiny, makes you giggle to see it wiggle.
And you know what? I realized we haven't seen much this episode, and because it's my all-time favorite. Can we end with Bill Clinton?
Yeah, I thought it was so brilliant the way that he, and I was so struck by his public apology for, but I always thought I would, if I was him, I wouldn't have said, I misled you, I deeply regret it. I would have said, I want to speak to just the men in the audience for a second. Fellas, y'all know my wife. I want you to put yourself in my shoes. 20-year-old intern, big old boobies. What would you do? I think you know the answer. And I think I do too. Now I want to speak to just the women in the audience. Ladies, I live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's a little interesting.
Oh, man, Daryl. Thank you so much for
That
being
was
here, man. I
awesome.
appreciate you hanging out. To get all those impressions are really, it's an honor, man. Thanks for hanging with us. Sorry I made you miss your appointment, but I'm glad you had a good time. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Make sure you subscribe, follow, all the things. Follow Darrell. We'll be here next week. Thanks for being here. Bye, everybody.